Meeting in like 1 minute, but wait. But they are. Can you folks hear me okay or not? Ah, excellent. Helene, you're on mute, of course.
Yes, Alex, I can hear you perfectly. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, welcome, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I always have compatibility issues when you switch between Zoom and Teams. The headsets never seem to be quite compatible to seamless switching. So
no problem. You're here. That's the most important thing, Alex. Without you, the meeting wouldn't be successful.
No, I think it's without the folks in the room, the meeting would not be successful. So, it's a fantastic turnout, which tells me that we're already having quite a bit of success of recruiting students for this challenge. So really good to see that. So we'll give everyone another maybe minute or two, and then we'll kick it off.
Still more people joining us.
Okay. While we're waiting, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Does everyone see the presentation now?
Yes, Alex,
no?
It's visible.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. All right. All right. You know what? Let's go ahead and get going because we're scheduled an hour, and I'm hoping to have enough time at the end to answer any of your questions. I know we have looks like more than 100 people now on the call, so that would be, I think, our record, right, Glenn?
That's definitely a record, Alex. So it's a good thing that the research challenge is going up.
Yeah, yeah. So that's fantastic. I think this. I mean, if depending on how everyone, if everyone sticks with us, I think it will also be our highest number of universities that are going to be enrolled in this program. So this is terrific. So I'm really happy to see that. So today is our official kickoff of this year's CFA Institute's Research Challenge. So my name is Alex Morozov. I'm the coordinator of this. Helene is the one that does all the dirty work for this. Everything that organizing, everything that's she's actually really the power behind this this whole process. I'm just here collecting the glorious parts and being the face for the local society. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'll run through this slides, introduce myself first, and then give you the overview of the process of the program, and then for the second half of the call, which hopefully will be about 30-40 minutes or so, I'm also going to run you through some of the the tips, some of the tricks, what to expect from this, how to publish a report. And I think that my experience might be of use to you because I've been an equity analyst for almost 2 decades now. So started as just covering medtech life science companies. Was running the healthcare sector team for many years, and then since 2014, I've been in Amsterdam running our European equity research team. So in many ways, operating as a generalist, no longer the specialist in healthcare, just vetting, reviewing, understanding how we analyze companies across every single sector. So been CFA charter holder for many years, and also been involved twice on 2 separate occasions with a CFA Netherlands, not Benelux, Netherlands Society. Been on the board for 2 stints from 2016 to 18, and more recently from 2020 to 2023. I still retain my research challenge volunteer obligations. So I've been running that for how many years now? 5, 6, something like that.
This is the 6th year for you, Alex. So
yeah,
you're a rookie. Not a rookie, not anymore.
No, not anymore. So first and foremost, what is the CFA Institute Research Challenge? Hopefully, since you're all signed up for that, you already have some basic understanding what this is, why this is, how it's organized. If you haven't, please do so. There is a lot of resource available on the not even just the local Netherlands CFA Society page, but also the CFA Institute's Research Challenge page. You can get a lot of information there. But very briefly, so it's the worldwide intercollegiate competition between teams of students. It's organized by local societies, but it's part of the global CFA Institute program. We have this year, we could have what, 14, 15 teams potentially, if not more, maybe even more. And each one of those teams is going to be comprised of 3 to 5 students. And what does it involve? It essentially involves you being, for a number of months, an equity analyst. So putting yourself in the shoes of someone like me, who does that for a living. So all I do for a living, well, what I did when I was an analyst, is do what you would be doing for the next couple of months, which is just analysis of a publicly traded company, interviews with the company management, doing your research both individually and as a team, and putting together overall the company report, the comprehensive equity report. So something what a sell-side analyst typically produces in this industry. So what are the benefits for you? I was actually hoping, and it might happen. One of my team members hoping that she would join to tell you what the benefits is for students. And the reason she was going to join, and she might still be able to join, is because 2 years ago she was a member of this challenge. So Sveta was she was a member. She was one of the team members, one of the finalists, and now she decided to continue her career in equity research. So she now works as an associate on my team. And I've been doing so for more than a year. So when we talk about the benefits for students, even if you don't necessarily see the career of equity analyst as something that appeals to you, there is a lot of real life world experience that you're going to get out of this. So equity analyst or sell-side equity analyst is not obviously the only pathway for you, but the fact that you would be doing so much of the work that people in the financial services do in the full time, it's a really invaluable experience. In addition to the academic experience that you're getting right now through your studies, this is really much practical experience. And then just being in those shoes for a few months, interviewing company management, doing this research yourself, presenting to a panel of experts, having your reports graded by the analysts and volunteers from the CFA Society Netherlands, who also happen to be analysts, sell-side or buy-side analysts. I think it's just really a terrific experience. Last year winner was the Utrecht School of Economics, the local competition. So this is the first time that Utrecht University participated, and it happened to be also they happened to win this in their inaugural presentation, which was really quite an accomplishment. One of the top three reports, and combined with the top presentation, they ended up winning the challenge for the Benelux. But overall, globally, when you look at the research challenge, we had over 1,000 universities globally, 150 societies, nearly 100 countries represented, 6,700 students that participated in this challenge. And these numbers have been growing every year. I've mentioned that this is going to be a record for us in Benelux, but it's been just been increasingly popular event, because I think a lot of students do see and universities see a tremendous value in this. The timeline should say 2024. Apologies. So the timeline is today is the kickoff event, but pretty much the work begins now. If hopefully already all your university teams are organized, you have your team members ready, you have your faculty ready. You might not have mentors yet. Some of you already have the mentors that were provided by your faculty, maybe, or maybe some of you through university already have mentors lined up. If not, don't worry. You really don't need a mentor at this stage of your process. You may soon, but if you don't have one, Helene and I are working on lining up. So we're right now soliciting interest from all of your faculty sponsors in terms of who needs the industry mentors. So we'll be trying to get you one fairly soon. So for the next, well, I guess more than 30 days, maybe a month and a half, you'll start working on this, on your research, on the company research. We're tentatively scheduling to have the company event day, which is always the best part of this challenge, in my opinion, the most enjoyable part of this challenge, where a company representative will actually spend several hours with us presenting, asking all of your questions. So that we're gonna try to tentatively schedule that for mid to late November. We typically ask students to join us in person, but I understand that we have some universities participating where the logistics might be a little bit more challenging. So we're probably going to try to arrange video feed, whether through Zoom or through Teams. We did it last year, and we also recorded, I think, most of the presentations. Is that right? Yeah. You're on mute again.
Yes, we recorded the meetings, and I did a live stream as well of the presentation, so everybody could join us and ask questions as well.
Yeah. So and obviously that you get a little bit more exposure to the management team through being there in person. But yeah, even if you're not able to, you still can get a lot out of this company day. I would say that the next deadline is not really a hard deadline. It's just more of a deadline for you, because as you kind of approaching the year end and the holidays are starting, you might want to kind of think of, like, when do you want to have your first draft of the research paper done? And I think that mid-December, it usually tends to be a good target, because the final report is due mid-January. So that only leaves you with maybe 2 to 3 weeks altogether to kind of go through your last review, maybe speak to your industry mentor, do last-minute edits, and still be able to submit it in time, because we need at least 3 or 4 weeks to grade those reports. So once the reports are graded, then we're going to announce the finalists. The number of finalists is going to depend on the number of universities that we're going to that will participate. Last year, we expanded the roster of universities finalists to 4 from 3 before. And as the number grows, we might have to take another look at how many finalists we're gonna have. Most likely, it's going to be 4 this year as well. So out of all the universities that will compete, 4 of you with the highest score of your report will join us, hopefully in the same venue as we did last year, which was Euronext in Amsterdam, for the local final. And if you happen to win the local final, you'll be moving on to the sub-regionals, and after that, regional semis, regional finals, and the global final this year is in Chicago. All right. Subject company. I'm extremely excited about this one. And the reason I'm extremely excited about this one is because not just it's an interesting business, it's a really, really interesting business. It is also the company that's just went through this massive, well, really quite a roller coaster over the last couple of years. You look at the takeoff during the COVID years, how much the market has grown, how much the demand has grown, how much the business has grown, and then the hangover from that for the last couple of years. So the stock has been just really on quite a roller coaster. We at Morningstar actually happen to cover that company, and I have to make a disclaimer here. I actually personally own this stock. I'm not going to tell you what price I bought this at or when I bought this, but I do have to provide a disclaimer that I actually own shares of Just Eat Takeaway. But I'm quite excited that the company was willing to be this year's subject company. So this is great. This is really interesting business. It's going to be a really challenging business for you to analyze, both from just understanding how the business works, how they make money, where the competitive advantage is created, but also in terms of the value in this business. It's going to be a really tricky one to value. So. But the trickier the business to value, the more interesting your research might get. And the more interesting your research might get, the more likely you are to go further in this competition. So that's the company for this year. So start doing your work. Start researching. Very quickly on the rules, and I'm hoping that you actually go to the CFA Institute's page and read up on the rules. Read up about how we work with advisors and mentors, how you will work with advisors and mentors. There are some caps on how much you can utilize both the faculty advisor and the industry mentor. So you'll have to use that time very, very wisely. And there's the scorecards that we will use for your report, and there's the presentation scoring. So last but not least, the exciting part is that the finalists will be receiving the first, second, and third place from the finalists will be receiving monetary prize, which is going to come out from our society, right, Helena? I mean, this is yes, not from the sponsors. We're paying out of our society budget to the winners. The winner will receive 1,500 euros. Second place will receive 1,000 euros, and the third place team will receive 500 euros. How you spend it, I think there's no restrictions, but I think that in the past, part of the prize was training, the public speech training. We don't have that offered this year, but possibly that's one way you could utilize the winnings if you're a winning team to improve your chances on advancing further in this competition. So that's all I have on this the actual kickoff presentation. Any questions? I know that we have lots of folks dialed in. So if you have any questions, maybe it's the easiest way to do it. Either pop them in the chat, or I don't know, raise your hand. I think there is a little there's a little button you can press. Raise your hand if you have any questions regarding the event itself, before I jump into the second part of the presentation, which is focusing on the more of a guidelines, tips, and tricks for writing a research report, sell-side research report.
Yes, we have a question from Jacques.
Hi, my name is Jacques Longerset. I'm a mentor, so I'm probably already in my 6 hours of maximum time, right? But the question I had is, are the winning reports from prior years available to read for students, or are those not available?
Yes, all the winning reports of the previous year are available on our website. You can find them there listed. And I will also send you a link of the winning reports of the person winning the global finals, which will also be interesting to read.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
There's another question of
There's another question. Okay, yes, I see a couple more questions. Yes.
Hi, I'm a participant.
Yes,
Can you hear
go
my
ahead.
voice? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Josh, we can hear you.
I just had one question where I read the line where first, if you advance to the finals, then there is a presentation in Amsterdam, right? The
That is
final.
correct, yes.
And the next one was recording, which is the next stage, and another one was written live. So there is no in-person meeting after that stage, which is in Amsterdam.
So the Amsterdam event is the live event. It's the local finals. So that's the Benelux finals. So the four teams with the highest graded reports will be coming into Amsterdam to do the presentation in person. The next
Okay.
stage is going to be a recording. So if the winner of the Benelux will be asked to record a 10-minute presentation, essentially what they were going to do live in front of judges here in Amsterdam. They're going to ask to be recorded a similar presentation and send it to the to the institute for their regional, what they call the regional semis, or no, it's the regionals. Yeah, maybe it's regional semis. I think the next one will be live again, and I think then I'm not sure if it's going to be live via the Zoom's team or is it in person. I don't really recall. We'll get to that. We'll get to that stage because it's
that was the
quite a bit
only
of an
question.
advancement. Yeah.
Because I read the live means live virtually or live in person. So that was the only question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's possible that the regional finals or EMEA finals are in person as well, but we haven't had anyone from the Benelux yet making that far. Hopefully, this is the year that things will change. So
hopefully, with your support.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your answer.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and briefly run through this through this presentation. And the point here, what I'm trying to do with this is give you some opportunity to understand what I, for example, as a director of equity research, want to see when my analysts do their work as equity analysts, what kind of content they provide. Because in many ways, while the format is maybe slightly different, while the setup is very different, i.e. Morningstar has their philosophy. We have one way of doing equity research. You are not necessarily bound by that. You can do the equity research how you see fit, how you want to do it, how you think what you think will result in the most best position, most well-received report. However, there are so many commonalities in terms of how you present that I think that some of the guidelines, tips, tricks that I can provide, they're not just applicable to how we do the research at Morningstar, but something that you could use for your own research. So I already covered that part. So what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through what I consider to be the components of a winning research report. So front page summary, the investment summary, what you should or should not put in business description, industry overview and competitive position, financial analysis, valuation, investment risks, ESG. Then I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit what some of the suggestions I have about the information gathering. When I say talk about information gathering, I'm very cognizant right now we don't have yet, some of you, especially the faculty who have been involved in the past, you know that historically at this point we would provide you with an overview of the Refinitiv platform that we've used historically to give students ability to do their research. Right now, we don't have the agreement just yet with whoever's going to be providing support from that side, but hopefully we will have some more news on that front soon. So for information gathering purposes, I think historically we used the Refinitiv. It's going to be a little bit different this year, but don't worry, you will not be left without research platform. And some of you actually, from what I understand, some of your universities have access to some of those research platforms as well. So I'm not sure how that works exactly, but yeah. And then a few more tips to help you win, and then turn into Q&A. I allocated 40 more minutes for this. Hopefully we can cover all this information in 40 minutes and still have enough, 30 minutes and still have enough time for Q&A. So the guidelines are there. I'm not going to go through that. The guidelines are on the site. So front page summary. What should you as a team look for, strive for when putting together this front page summary? From my perspective, and I think from perspective a lot of the buy side analysts, so a lot of the consumers of sell side equity research reports, who tend to be asset managers, portfolio managers, pension funds managers, so any kind of institutional audience that consumes this content, for them the front page summary is probably the most important page in the entire report. So some of the things to kind of look for when writing this front page. Do you have a clear investment conclusion right up front? Because if you don't, you might not get much interest to go for someone to go beyond that first page. The price target and valuation of the stock, do you have that clearly spelled out on the front page? The key reasons, I wouldn't call them catalysts, but key drivers of your investment recommendation, are they there? Why are you suggesting that someone should own this or sell this stock? You have to be really to the point here. You don't have much space to operate with. You have to be short and you have to be really catchy. And by catchy, I don't say gimmicky. And it's sometimes it's an easy trap to fall into, to try to maybe do some smart puns or get creative. You don't want to. You want to be intelligent about it. You don't want to be gimmicky, but you can be catchy. I mean, there's still some ways to kind of draw people attention to this front page. Just a few bullets, a few sentences will suffice. What you really want to do with that is to trigger the interest of the reader to actually want to go beyond the front page and read more. So after reading the front page summary, the reader should know if they should buy or sell stock and why, which should lead them to the next a few pages. So I have a few examples here from the previous winners from actually I think from us, as well as the some of the sell side reports. How some of those recommendations actually look like. Every report should have an investment summary or thesis. Also very succinct, to the point. It's a summary of the key message of the report, a little bit more detail. So it's if the front page is really just that couple of bullets, couple of key sentences. Here you can go a little bit more on the company description, what's strategy, what's targets, what are the markets, trends, competitive environments, a good overview of the outlook or forecast or your financials. Substantial paragraph summarizing your valuation section. I think it's for me, it's probably the most critical part of that, is the evaluation section, what goes in it and why. Key conclusion: are you recommending to buy, sell, and why? And then also the risks to the company as well as the risks to your investment opinion. Two can be very different. The risk for the company might not necessarily be the same as the risk to your investment thesis, because your investment thesis already might be incorporating that risk. Especially if you have, for example, a sell recommendation, something that you think that there is a major risk of to the current that provides the downside risk to this to current valuation, but perhaps market does not fully appreciate that. So your investment opinion might already have that risk factored in. When it comes to business description, I mean, it is very descriptive. It's probably not my most favorite part of the company report, because I think there's very little opinion that's in there. It's really just much more descriptive. So, but you still have to make sure that the reader knows, what does the company actually do, who does it sell to, what it sells to, what markets it operates, and what countries, why, what's their strategy, financial targets. Be very mindful not to spend too much of your real estate report on this. Your real estate within this 10 pages is very valuable. So when you look at the ROI, if you will, on your space, you really need to kind of think, where do you think I can get the most of graders credit or benefit? They're probably not going to be much. You're not going to get much differentiation done in the business description section, but it's still a necessary section to include. Yes, I think there's a question.
Hey,
Mark,
Alex, thanks.
yeah.
Very informative, very to the point. I appreciate it. Looking through the older reports, I saw that they were quite bulky in terms of the number of pages. So is there, and now you're saying, okay, you have to be brief. Agree with that completely. Yeah, that's always really nice to read something that is really brief. But looking at past reports, I see that they are very very big.
Power of
So is
appendix,
there
Mark.
maximum number
Mark,
of pages?
Mark, it's a power of appendix. The report is there to provide you the key takeaways from your research, but it is pretty clear. I mean, you're going to have 4 or 5 students for 3 months working on this research piece. There's going to be a lot of information that your students would want to share. I mean, there's so much content that gets left on this cutting room floor. In order to still show that stuff exists, and especially for the purposes of supporting information for any questions that might arise, and supporting conclusions, you have all the space in the world in the appendix I to utilize. But to be very clear, though, when the graders read the reports, they grade based on the 10 pages of the report.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
This is the section that's kind of near and dear to me personally, because, well, professionally, because we spend a lot of time in my company looking at the competitive position. So competitive position is, for me, it's probably the most critical piece of of this research. But it's obviously it gets significant chunk of the overall grade, but it's not the only one that matters. But I think it sets you up. The proper analysis of the competitive position sets you up for all the other sections. So without doing your work here, you're probably not going to be able to formulate a very good investment conclusion and formulate a good investment thesis. So you really have to try to understand what is the company's competitive position. In our lingo, what is the company's economic moat? Is it how durable it is? Does the industry have some of those competitive advantages? How is the market structured, and what are the key trends of the market? Are there some significant regulatory changes on the horizon that could potentially disrupt the dynamics? Does the rivalry increase has the rivalry increased over time, decreased over time? Has the company become more entrenched in its positioning? Has the market share evolved a lot? Some industries market share changes are very glacial. In some could happen overnight. So in essence, you could hopefully through your studies, you've all kind of come across your Porter's 5. So there's a Porter's 5 framework. There's a lot of frameworks that you can use to do this competitive analysis. I just picked Porter's 5 because it's probably the most well known and the most studied. But there's many other ways to kind of look at it. So think of like what the company's economic moat could be. Is there one? If there isn't one, why? What does the company need to do to get there? And that's pretty much the Porter's 5 right here. So it's, but as I said, it's not the only way to look at it. It's just probably the most well understood and the most frequently utilized. Financial analysis, that's where your data crunching skills come into the picture. So you're gonna build the DCF, or you're gonna build whatever model you choose to use. I think most frequently used is some version of the discounted cash flow model. But in the section of the report, you have to provide the key drivers. Make sure that when you kind of once again, you have very limited real estate within the report. So utilize this section wisely. This section is not there for you to regurgitate every input that you got into your model. I think you need to really focus on the critical drivers of the business. What makes this business tick? Is it the sales? Is it the margin? Is it the combination of both? Two could be very much inextricably linked. So it's something that you have to really think about. It. What kind of reinvestment requirements does the business have? What kind of balance sheet does it have? I think it's impossible to provide the company analysis or financial statement analysis without talking about the balance sheet, capital deployment. So cash flow statement for me is the most critical piece of information. So for you, it might not be, but for me, it is. So make sure that you provide some of the key drivers, and obviously if you're doing a DCF, you cannot do DCF without a forecast of free cash flow. So all of those drivers are very important to insert. Be very careful with the last bullet here, is it's management guidance. Management guidance exists for a reason, and the management teams are usually, especially the top level management, they're really good at selling their company. So as an analyst, you have a very, very difficult task, and it's not just a difficult task for you as students; it's a difficult task for my analysts to be able to look at the management guidance and have enough strength of power to disagree with it if needed. Not always needed, but so when you utilize management guidance, be very certain that you're comfortable with those numbers, comfortable with your forecast, because at the end of the day, the management there is to sell their business. And I also would say that there are two different ways to look at the guidance. When it comes to the near-term guidance, especially let's say the next 6 to 12 months, there is an information disadvantage that you will have. The management has a much greater visibility into the near term that you will have by doing your analysis. So the management guidance tends to be a little bit more credible when it comes to the near term. When it comes to long term, I think management there is really now starts acting as a marketing team, as a PR team, rather than analysts. So they're there to tell you the wonderful story, to spin it positively, and provide this really rosy outlook. As long as it's reasonable, as long as they're just not making up numbers, it's fine. Your job is to look at it and ascertain whether that rosy outlook is actually reasonable or not. So be very careful with management guidance. There's many ways you can look. You can do valuation. As I said, my history, my experiences with DCF, but that's not the only way. You have other ways of doing it. I would say that what I've found from the winning reports in the past, sensitivity analysis is important. Scenario analysis is important, and there's a difference between the sensitivity analysis and scenario analysis. So you just have to be very careful not to confuse the two. There's some elements of how your assumptions, how your valuation is sensitive to certain assumptions. So you just do the plus minus on revenue or plus minus on cost of capital, and create the sensitivity table. While the second one, the scenario analysis, some of the plausible things that could happen to the business. So it's not just the delta on your revenue line, but there could be some serious disruptions to the business. There could be a situation with 20% of the 20% probability that this business is going to be worth zero. So you need to make sure that you incorporate some of that scenario analysis in your work. Multiple analysis is obviously commonly used, and in many ways it's very valuable. Be mindful that a lot of times it's also a shortcut for doing the work. So just because the company's trading above its historical 10-year average of the price to earnings multiple doesn't mean that that's the wrong price to earnings multiple. So when you're doing any kind of multiple analysis, make sure that you don't just understand what the historical numbers look like in terms of the EV EBITDA or EV sales, whatever multiple you choose to use, but also be able to explain why now is different or why now is not different. Multiples are shortcuts, sometimes very useful, but sometimes could lead you down a really wrong path. And just always remember that even the best company in the world, there could be an absolutely lousy investment if the market fully appreciates the potential, the opportunity that this company is facing, and maybe overshoots it in terms of in terms of forecasting, in terms of putting a value on it. So I, as an analyst, have had many examples where you get so excited about the business, you get so excited about the company, it just looks terrific, and then you build your model and you build your assumptions, and you're like, wow, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I recommend this business? Just always worth remembering that even the best company could just be an absolutely terrible investment. So a few examples here of what I've seen in the past when it comes to the valuation, both on the absolute and the relative basis. Relative basis is useful as well, not just to historical averages, but also to peers. I think most of you will probably be doing that, so it's not rocket science. Some of the parts, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. You will have to decide ultimately what you will need for this particular business, for this particular business model, how to value it. That's going to be your job. Investment risks, I think some of those are pretty straightforward. So kind of think of it, what could possibly derail your investment conclusion? What could possibly can happen to this that pretty much you just pick up this report and just throw it out of the window? So make sure when you kind of think of those are not just the far-fetched risks. Those are the plausible, sometimes even possible risks. So be very clear, so that maybe build some kind of, as I said, scenario analysis, assign some kind of probabilities. Just be mindful not to ignore those risks. ESG is a big component. I know it's not necessarily been in vogue lately. I mean, it's been a controversial topic, especially outside of Europe. In the US kind of went almost a different direction when it comes to ESG, but ESG remains a very key element of the research challenge analysis. So there is a section that's worth a lot of points. So whatever your personal opinions on ESG investing, make sure that you take those personal opinions, put them aside, and look at it from the perspective of ESG and how that pertains to the risk factors of the business or the opportunities of the business. So ask yourself questions like how fair is the corporate governance structure to you as a shareholder? Are there alignments there? Are there clear alignments between the corporate governance of a company and your interest as an investor? How socially responsible is a company, and how much does that actually matter? Does that lead to improved outcomes? Does it lead to greater growth? Does it lead to lower cost of capital? Things of that nature. How do they take environment into account? So that please read very carefully the rules and the guidance on the ESG section. It's a very important section. When it comes to, that's a lot of points that you could possibly lose if you just disregard that. Have a very clear conclusion on the potential impact of the above. Will those factors affect your model? Will those factors affect your competitive position assessment? Don't just look at this as a purely exercise and just a pure ESG exercise. I mean this is linked to the rest of the analysis, or it should be linked to the rest of your analysis. So look at it very holistically. Any questions before I just jump in onto the information gathering section? All right. And as I said, just if you have anything, just drop it in the chat. If you don't feel like asking a question on camera, just drop the question in the chat if you have any. So the information gathering is actually the fun part. So it's nice to have a lot of resources at your disposal, but frankly, you don't. All the resources that you need is already out there. You don't need a really fancy, sophisticated platforms to help you with that. I mean, it's nice. It streamlines things. It makes things easier, simpler. But I would say that the first thing before you even start doing any kind of modeling, I would actually say that you really probably shouldn't be doing any kind of modeling for at least 3 or 4 weeks of your research process. Start reading. Reading is gather information. That's the most critical element. Annual reports, company presentations, company website provides a lot of information that you might need just to understand the business. Don't stop there. Go to the competitor's website. So Just Eat Takeaway. They compete with Delivery Hero in Germany. They compete with Deliveroo in the UK market. They compete with DoorDash in the US. Don't just look at Just Eat website and Just Eat Capital Markets Day. Go look at the competitors. What are the competitors saying? Because that's how you kind of build your mosaic. That's how you build your thesis on the business. Because as I said, the company's job is to be promotional. They are there to sell you. The investor relations is there to sell you on their stock, on their company. The other companies will do the same thing. But through gathering all this information, you can build a much more complete picture. The company management meeting is a very unique resource. We're lucky that the company will be doing a presentation to us, but it's also a very scarce resource. So Hopefully, by the time we have our company day, you've done your research, you've done a lot of work already, and you will be able to use your time wisely. We've had plenty of cases, and I warn students all the time, ask questions only you can ask, but too many questions are still kind of like of the variety that you could probably find the answers yourself if you really want to. So, and I actually have a slide specifically on that. So a few other tips to help you win. I mean, brevity for me is critical. So in 10 pages is a lot. You can put together a lot of content in 10 pages, but don't just view that as kind of a carte blanche to write whatever you want to write in there. Your point there is to be very succinct and pack as much impact in those 10 pages as possible. Differentiate yourself in 10 pages. Avoid anything that's not differentiated, with the exception of obviously the business description is by definition a description. Everything else should be just packed with your opinions, with your views, not somebody else's views. My former director and mentor when I just started, she told me, it's like, write analyst notes that only you can write. And I think that's probably the best advice that I've ever gotten, because it's very easy to put on your journalist hat and just be very descriptive with your work. Your job is to be an analyst, not a journalist. So avoid the description, pack your report with opinions, and so you have only 10 pages. So make sure that those are impactful. Use the appendix for the rest. Don't be afraid to have that clear opinion. Clear opinion is what gets you the points. That's what gets you the win. That's what gets you further in the competition. Do not go crazy on industry jargon. It's very easy to fall into that trap. So you sound very smart when you start kind of mentioning all those very jargony things, but most of the graders, I mean, I can smell through bullshit pretty easily. I know when somebody's just packing the fancy words to just kind of impress the reader. Don't do that. You have to. Your report has to be readable. It has to be digestible. But also, don't use flowery language. This is not. This is at the end of the day, this is a sell-side report. So you're once again, you're not a journalist. So just kind of avoid that. So think of it like everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. I mean, that's not my quote. That's Einstein's quote, but I mean, it really, really is pertains to this work as well. Visuals matter. A lot of times, the visual can convey so much in it that that will take you many, many words to describe that. So when you have a visual, don't use that. Don't describe the visual. And if your visual needs description, it means it's not a good visual. So differentiation is key here. So use your focus on your unique insights. When you're doing your research, you might be able to uncover some really, really cool little nuggets of information. And if you really think that those are cool nuggets of information are not something that everyone else can do, pounce on them, use them. That's where that's your differentiation. That's how you can separate yourself from all your peers. Last few, so one slide is on the, well, 2 slides on the meeting with management, and I'm gonna recycle those slides during the company day. But as you kind of start thinking about what are you gonna be focusing on, is that there's some things that what I always tell even my analysts when you meet with management, what not to do and what to do. So I'll start with what not to do. Ask those what, where, when questions. Those are descriptive questions. Those are fact-driven questions. Those are the questions you can find answers yourself. Don't waste management time with those questions. Don't ask what your sales were last year. Don't ask you what the profitability margin was last year. If you're asking those questions, it means that you didn't do your work. Don't. And that kind of relates to the next point, is that to come into the meeting with no basic knowledge of the business, you're going to walk away with no additional knowledge of the business. Because a lot of the teams are ready to come prepared to that. They're asking questions that kind of like the second level questions or even third level questions. If you're still struggling to understand the basics, you're not going to fully appreciate what the impact of some of the answers is. Narrow questions are okay, but at the end of the day, ask yourself if these are really truly the best questions you want to ask. Given that we're going to have many teams this year, I would be surprised if we have time for more than maybe 1 question per team. In the past, we've had opportunities for teams to ask 2 questions. Now, unless the Just Eat's management point person is going to be very kind and allow us to extend the conversation, it's quite possible that each one of your teams will only have opportunity to ask just one question. So make sure it counts. Don't be shy to ask questions you really want to ask. So ask those questions, but also make sure that you do not inject your opinions forcefully. You're there to do research. You're not there to argue. If you have a good counterpoint, you can still bring that, but at the end of the day, you're talking to individuals that have been doing it for a very, very long time, and there is a reason why they say that. So perhaps when you have those preconceived notions, some of those opinions, you can come in very forcefully and attack those, but you might just be completely wrong. So just be mindful of that. Which brings me to the next point: is what to do. As my favorite questions are the why and how questions. So ask those. Don't ask what, when, where. Ask why and ask how. Homework, pretty clear. You have more than 4 weeks to do your research, so do your research. Don't ask questions that you can just answer by Googling this information. So you're not there to showcase your knowledge. You're there to listen. So listen. And a lot of the questions that you're going to hear from other teams are going to be very, very insightful questions. So pay attention to those as well. Don't just focus on, okay, well, you have this one terrific question, so you're just going to focus your entire attention to that. No. And then the rest is straightforward, right? I mean, focus on your key investment drivers, not peripheral stuff. If something of really huge interest to you only maybe accounts for 5% of your intrinsic value, is it worth asking? Focus on the stuff that matters. And at the end of the day, have fun. I mean, this is a lot. This is really an enjoyable experience. If you have an opportunity to do something like that for a living, I mean, I enjoy doing something like that for a living. Still do after 20 years. You'll have an opportunity to do that as living in the shoes of a sell-side analyst for a couple months. So enjoy it. Have fun with it. And that's all I have. And we have, let's say, 10 plus minutes for questions. And by the way, I'm also very happy to answer any follow-up questions that you may have about the process, about some of the guidance that I've provided. If your team wants to reach out to me and just have a quick sit down, there's nothing that prohibits me, as long as I'm not giving you any kind of detailed instructions about the company. I'm happy to sit down with your teams to provide some answers to some additional questions you may have about the process, about how to write a successful equity sell-side report, or anything else you might want to ask me. Just reach out and we can set up a call and discuss. But if you have any questions right now, I'm happy to answer them. Once again, please either raise your hand or type it in the chat. Yeah, folks tend to be quite shy in this setting. Don't. I mean, if you have a question, feel free to ask. But otherwise, as I said, I'm available for additional conversations. So if your team would like to set up a call with me, please do so. So I'll give one more minute for people to decide that. Yep. You're welcome, Mark. So if I'll just give another minute to folks. Maybe someone will ask a question. If not, we'll wrap it up. All right, doesn't seem like it. So thank you all for your time. Hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna see you all in 4 or 5 weeks. I'm gonna be running the company day event. So I'll be around, and I'll see you in a month. Good luck.
And thanks so much to you, Alex, for this clear presentation. Looking forward to meeting you again at the company day.